And then all of a sudden, and I'll never, ever forget the day that we closed down because Al Pacino was actually doing a play reading in our venue the night before at the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts. The Wallace was actually new. And we had been in operation, I think about 6 or 7 years at that point. We had just built a solid foundation for the organization. And I don't mean just financially. We had a programming track record that was quite successful at that point. We had developed a base of support, both through our ticket sales and through our philanthropic endeavors. So we had a lot of momentum at that point. And then all of a sudden, and I'll never, ever forget the day that we closed down because Al Pacino was actually doing a play reading in our venue the night before. And I was in a room with our board chair and our finance chair. And it's interesting because our board chair at the time, he was an excellent leader. He was doing a lot of work in China at the time, and he knew what was coming. And it was very contentious with the people sitting around the table, our artistic director and other staff members. No one knew what this was going to look like in the long run. And so, but he kept saying, look, trust me, we have offices in China and I know what's coming. We need to close down. So we did close down, and that was very, very painful. And how do you communicate that to your patrons and your staff and your board? So I'll never forget that day. It was the right decision. It was a painful and hard decision. And I would say as a leader, you do have to make painful and hard decisions, and they might not be popular. That was not popular, but it was absolutely the right thing to do. We had to downsize our team in the extreme, and that was the most painful thing we had to do. There was no way we could sustain, especially as an organization that was only 6 or 7 years old, but we could not sustain the number of people. We had more than 50 full-time employees, and we had to shut our doors. So we had no ticket income coming in. And I want to talk about the philanthropy separately because that's really where we poured our heart and soul into the relationships that we had built over those many years. And thankfully, our board members and the community remained very generous during the time, and they wanted to make sure that even while we were closed, we would get through this extremely, extremely difficult time.